ever changing and new constructions happening or new things are being built. And, um, 10 years from now, who knows? It might not even be there. It might be a condo, right? Or something like that. And so trying to find places of appreciation for the things that I have and the things that I can enjoy in my life right now.
I'm the same way. One thing that I realized when both my parents got sick, I think we shared this last time,
Yeah.
was that's how I think you realize you're getting older when people around you start getting sick and people start passing on.
Yeah.
Like I can't remember many people dying in my 20s, but now like my mid 30s and I'm starting to get a little bit older. I'm like, okay, this person's sick, that person's sick, I'm sick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And as you mentioned, like you start to look around and you realize, okay, things are a little bit different. I know here in Toronto, Canada, it seems like the world has changed at a faster pace ever since the lockdowns of 2020.
Yeah. No, I think that's really fair. Yeah. And, here in the States, we're facing this effing election. Right? Get me started on that, right?
Yes,
Like,
yes, I forgot
what kind
about
of world am
that.
I going to be living in another year? Oh my God. So, right, that's really wild. And yeah, I mean, there's this way when I think about the pandemic, it's like, did it happen? Did it is like, there's a part of it that feels really surreal. Like, we lived that life, we walked through that, we were really doing that. And I was watching I have this girlfriend who's obsessed with the Real Housewives, and so I've agreed. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch one season of this. And so she got me started. I was like on the New Yorkers, right? So I'm watching it. And it's from a time ago. It's like so there are scenes where they're wearing their masks and they're doing their thing. And now it's like it's marked in time, like in our media, in our television, in our movies. Like, how wild is that? And yet we lived through it. Not everyone, I know. Condolences to those who lost people during that time. I mean, I did too, but it's kind of wild, the resilience. But I mean, Tareen, don't you trip out like sometimes about like there will be a moment in time when there's no more humanity? Like there's just none. Like we'll get there. I think we'll get there. But I was thinking the other day, like 2024, for people who were living in like the 1300s, 2024 was like a dream state. Like, what? And so I try to put myself in that same mindset of like the year 3000 and like, whoa. And again, like, what is this little corner of the world where I'm living and the little mark that I'm going to make? And that bring it's gotten me thinking a lot, which I think we start to do as we get older too. Like, what is the mark that I want to leave? What's the legacy that I want to what's the imprint that I want to have? What's the impact that I want to have? And but at the same time trying to be a little detached from it because of all of the billions of people in the world, we probably remember 1% as far as we think about like historical figures, the people who end up on like in the history books. Um, and I used to feel like I needed to strive towards that. I needed to somehow create something that was so endurable. And I think I'm less of that mindset these days. It's more like I'm going to live my little life. I'm going to make the little differences or big differences that I can make, but not be too attached to what happens to it from there. Does that make sense?
It does because I was thinking of Legacy maybe last year. And one
Hmm.
thing I thought was growing up, I thought Legacy was it was a creation, right? But to me, when I was very young, creation was through your children. But as I got
Mm-hmm.
older, I realized, okay, creation can be a body of work, a painting,
Mm.
right? A tool, a service of being service, like how you're of service to people, right? So I began to expand my definition of creation when it came to legacy. And I said, okay, if I'm not going to have children, which I'm not, how can how
Yay,
can
welcome
I?
to the No Kids Club.
I know, right? My
Yay.
grandmother's like, am I going to be a great grandmother? I'm like, this is my brother and sister, but not for me,
Yeah, not for
right?
me.
So when I look at it, I was like, okay, what can I create? If
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be children, what can I create
Mm-hmm.
to leave
Mm-hmm.
the world? And to be honest, what if it was something as simple as creating memories in others that they pass along to other people?
Yeah. Yeah. I dig that. The other day, I was working with my graduates, and one of them, just as we were starting to wrap up, says, I just want to say, as a wrap up, that I'm really thinking about how one person's healing can have such impact. And sometimes you don't even see it. And so she was saying, Rachel, in working with you, I was able to come into this place where I'm now able to talk about my experience of sexual trauma. I'm able to be more embodied, more confident. And as a result of that, she's stepped into taking on a role in her community where she's helping them, understand. She's creating events for like prevention and awareness. And unfortunately, in their town, they recently had a teacher be exposed for being, abusing the kids in the school. And so she like hopped to it and, created this conversation for the parents and the facilitator, the people at the school. And then I thought about that later, how like on first level, I was thinking, oh yeah, like my work with her, impacted her life. And that's so lovely. But then I thought, but now she's impacting this community. And then now she's impacting maybe even the way the school deals with this, and the systems that they now set up to try to prevent, which then will impact kids coming up for generations. And I just got teary-eyed, Tareen, really thinking about that, like how like all these kids potentially being um safer because of this trickle down effect. And yeah, so legacy is such a trip because it's sometimes something we don't even get to see necessarily, and the ways that the kind of those waves trickle out. Um, and I think all people are doing that all the time, right? When we um, just are kind to our fellow human beings, or we show up for each other, or we make memories and have good times with each other. It doesn't have to be, intense stuff, just, a fond memory.
Yeah, it's like going from like let's say a family tree, which is your
Huh.
biological descendants, and then you have the friendly tree where it's like your friends and your acquaintances, and they're all bearing
Yeah.
the fruits of Rachel in that way.
Mhm.
And I think that's a fantastic way to do legacy because more and more people are not having children that way. So how can you leave
Yeah.
a lasting effect? And this is someone that you worked with. There's an impact there. Now they're going and impacting positively their community.
Yeah.
And there is like that trickle down, as you mentioned, from Rachel to this person, from this person to the community. And who knows, generation one, generation two,
Hmm.
generation three. And I think that's a fantastic, fantastic way to create legacy.
I do too. And I mean, you're in that same camp, right? The work you're doing, the impact that you're having, the lives that you're touching. And so, yeah, it's kind of a cool thing to sit and trip off
It is. It is. I
sometimes.
remember
So,
someone, some who was it? I forget who. I do apologize to the person who shared this, but someone who they're not a friend, but they're like more of acquaintance, and we have like we talk here socially, online and
mm,
through email. And she shared that, and she asked me the question, "How long have you been doing this?" And I said, "It's been 2.5 years. I used to do it back when I used to take videos. This is before you and I met, Rachel. I used to do
mm,
it from my backyard on only sunny days. So from like May
ah,
to about September, right? Winter, I was like, nope, no interviews. But she shared that she shared some of the things that I do with her family, and they were
mhm.
listening to this. And then the women I work with, I just got an email today. They're saying that, hey, can you do a presentation? Really wanted you to speak to like a larger group of women, and I feel proud because there's a lot of people out there that sometimes they look at what we do and there isn't the conversation between men and women. Like women are having it here, men are having it here,
Mhm.
but a lot of times they're not having it together. So to be asked by someone who's a female to speak in front of women, I feel very, very honored. And that's my legacy in a way.
Yeah, cheers to that. I love that a lot. Oh my goodness. And besides, you have a baby, you never know what kind of baby you're gonna get. They might not even want they might not be a
Oh
good
my God.
legacy.
I know, right? We might
They're
have to,
unpredictable.
it's,
Oh my goodness.
it's crazy. It's crazy to see that, because I love, being like that uncle, that godfather,
Hmm.
that like stuff like that. Not mafia, ladies and gentlemen, just the godparent. But I have the pleasure of saying that, okay, I've done my couple of hours. It's like work. Okay, I've done my couple of hours. It's like work. Okay, I've done my work.
Yeah,
I'm gone.
that's right. Yeah, I can't remember if I've told you this before, but my background is in childhood education and I worked as a teacher, right, in preschool and elementary school. And then I worked as a nanny for 9 years. So I've had my babies. Those are my little surrogate babies that I raised up. But you're exactly right. I could go home at the end of the day, and kick back. I wasn't having to worry about paying for college or those things. And yeah, I mean, absolutely. We can have and I have tons of, nephews and great nephews. So you're right. Like we get these opportunities to parent. In fact, I was just talking with my nephew the other day and they're going through the whole like they've just bought a house. So now how do we manage our finances? I was like, all right, well, we're gonna have a little Zoom meeting and let's talk about budgeting, right? So there are lots of ways that we can parent